Hey, Pastor Josh here. Merry Christmas. I have some family advice for you on this Christmas day as you are perhaps running around enjoying your family and read a little bit of Exodus chapter 18, verses 1 through 14. And if you're maybe looking at this another time, the family advice is still good for you. So let's jump into our reading. Moses is going to be reacquainted with his father in law, just like many of you are going to be visiting your in laws. Perhaps you're on your way there or you've already done it. You've had these encounters, and this is what's happening with Jethro and Moses. Moses has come from Egypt. He's come through the Red Sea, and now he is getting to see his wife now, and his father-in-law is coming to him. So Jethro, the priest of Midian, mother's father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Now Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had taken Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her home along with her two sons. The name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land, and the name of the other Eleazar, for he said, the God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. We are at Mount Sinai. So now the Lord has met him there. I did not mention it too, but the rock is Horeb. That is also the mountain of God, the arrival at Mount Sinai. And so they are camped there. And now there is this family reunion between Moses and his wife Zipporah and with Moses' father-in-law. And the emphasis is going to be on Moses' relationship with his father-in-law. So when he sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her two sons with her, Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. And they asked each other of their welfare and went into the tent. A good example to follow when you're at these family reunions and see how each other are doing and to be legitimately interested in how your family is doing. There's probably going to be people that you've not seen a while. Now, those that you're really close to, you're going to see them during this Christmas time, and you're going to be, you've just saw them yesterday or a week ago. But there's going to be some people, I'm assuming, that you're going to be around that you've not seen in a long time, and some of them you may not have the best of relationships with. The good thing is to legitimately ask them how they are doing, ask them of their welfare, and see and listen. Perhaps even write it down and commit to pray for them. I guarantee that'll make your next get together even better when they know that you've been thinking of them and you've legitimately been praying for them. Verse 8, then Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that has come upon them in the way, and how the Lord delivered them. There's nothing wrong with you at family gatherings to talk about how good God is, the blessings that God has given to you, particularly if when you've gathered with your family, if some of them are not believers in Jesus Christ, especially you're celebrating Christmas, the birth of Christ. There's nothing wrong with you saying that God has been good to me, or God has done this, or God has sent me through that. It'd be a good and wise thing for you to do. Jethro rejoiced for all the good that the Lord had done in Israel, in that he delivered them out of the hand of the Egyptians. Jethro said, blessed be the Lord who has delivered you out of the land of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. I'm so glad you all are free. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. He is greater than all of these gods in Egypt. I want to point out here that he's using the divine name here, Yahweh, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, and the Old Testament always means that it is Jehovah or Yahweh behind that word. So I know that the Lord is greater than all gods. The Hebrew word behind that is Elohim. God, Yahweh himself, sometimes is referred to as God, as Elohim, or sometimes he is referred to as Yahweh. But there is the distinctions. But he is saying that I know that the Lord, Yahweh, is greater than all Elohim. Now, here's a little trick. I'm going to give you a little Hebrew lesson real quick on Christmas Day of all times. But Elohim is also used to talk about spirit beings. angels. And so there are places that we see the word Elohim. And in fact, the King James Version itself will actually translate it as gods. But in reality, it is talking about angels. And even if you look at the context and you even look at the older commentaries that are interpreting the King James Version exactly, they'll say these are angels. And so the idea, though, is that this word Elohim, these words gods, can also be spoken of as spirit beings. So when Jethro is saying that the Lord, that Yahweh is greater than all gods, Yahweh is greater than all Elohim, he's saying there is no spirit being that is better than Yahweh. And particularly all the spirit beings that were in charge of and helping Pharaoh do what he does. Indeed, I believe that all of the ancient gods that you read about in your history books, even gods today, I believe they're all fueled by real spirits, but those spirits, of course, being fallen spirits, fallen angels, which we would call demons. So there's your little Hebrew lesson there. But Jethro is saying, I know that Yahweh is greater than all Elohim, because in this affair, they dealt arrogantly with the people. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. It is important that it says God, Elohim. Notice the translation here helps us by giving it a capital G, saying that the Lord Yahweh is the one and only true God, the one and only true Elohim. He is the supreme spirit being because he created everything, and all other Elohim, all other spirit beings were created by God. Some are still worshiping him and following him as angels. The others are fallen. We would call them demons. In the Old Testament, you see them as false gods, false Elohim. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God, capital G, Elohim. And so it's also important for us to remember that Jethro is apparently in a good relationship with God and is a servant of God, of Yahweh. He is able to bring a burnt offering, he is able to sacrifice to God. And we're also told that he is a priest of Midian when Moses interacts with him the first time. So here they are having their meal together, celebrating what the Lord has done. Now, here is something for you to remember for your get togethers, whether you're watching this on Christmas Day or another time. We look at what Moses' father-in-law does. The next day, Moses sat to judge the people. He's doing his work. And the people stood around Moses from morning till evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone and all the people stand around you from morning till evening?" Moses' father-in-law is giving him advice. So here's what happens when family gives you advice. A lot of times you are not willing to accept it. Family is the first folks that you usually resist their advice. But what we need to remember is that our family is given to us by God, and oftentimes they are walking down the right trail. Might not be the exact advice that you need to take, perhaps, but they see your life, they're around you, and the advice that they give, I tell you, you need to take a second shot at it. You need to reconsider the advice that they're giving you, because it may very well be from the Lord himself wanting you to take that. An attitude you need to change about the advice that you might hear during these Christmas gatherings and during these holiday times together. Take that advice. It may very well be from the Lord. We will see in our next reading that indeed it is, and it truly helps Moses out tremendously. I pray that's been a blessing to you. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas or a good day if you're watching this at another time, and I will see you in the next video.